When I first heard about this program, I wasn't sure that I could participate because of my crime. There's a saying that I'm not exactly sure who said it, but it's the best things in life are on the other side of fear. And I think that's very true. My name is Joshua LaRocco. I am 35 years young. Growing up, I really didn't have any, positive male role models pouring into me. I had the neighborhoods around me. My mom worked as she could to take care of us. And that's kind of where I started to lean, and which sent me down a road that was hard to get away from. I did what I thought was right, and I took life into my own hands, and I started to take things that weren't mine. And ultimately, I committed a robbery, and I ended up getting sentenced to 12 years at 85% in prison. So I had to spend 10 years, 1 month, and 21 days incarcerated. The biggest regret that I have outside of the victims of my crime is that I wasn't the only one that had to go to prison for that length of time. My mother did too. My mother's been the most consistent person in my life since I was a kid. And putting her through that stress was hard on me. I would take things because growing up the way I grew up, being poor, coming from, impoverished settings, stuff that we had didn't come easily. So when stuff came, you got to get it. You got to take it. And for me, what I learned is that, some things you do have to step outside of yourself to go after, but there's a certain way to do that. And I think it's by giving. If you can learn how to give of yourself, especially to someone else, then I think the right things for you will come to you in life. Because life ain't just about one of us, it's about all of us. My mother knew that I was coming home. But I tried, and I successfully hid the day that I was coming home from her. And so my brothers and my sister, they picked me up, and we went on a mission to surprise everybody that we could. I remember the last thing that I said to my judge when they final sentenced me and told me that I had to had to serve 12 years, and it was to ask, if I could hug my mother one more time. Going home to surprise her, I was with a lot of emotions. I was excited. Whenever something like that happens and you think about it for 10 years straight, like it's a pretty big moment. And I remember coming into the house, I didn't hesitate. I stormed into the house, pretty much running through the house. My brothers are sisters following behind me, trying to keep up. And just so happened, I was thinking I was going to catch my mother while she was asleep. And just so happened to catch her as she was walking up the hallway. And that embrace, she kind of freaked out for a second when she saw me. That was a long time coming. It was a pretty big deal. And that moment, I actually, my brother, I think, was recording it, or somebody was, my sister, and they took a picture. And I still have that picture as a screensaver on my phone to this day. I've always had a special connection with Zoeller because of the chance they took on me when I come home. It was a big deal. I think that the School to Work program is a great program, and it has been very beneficial to me personally because of a lot of the boxes that I got to check off with giving back to, the community. Specifically because the high school kids that we work with come from a high school that I'm very familiar with. Finding out that it's this school in particular, I was excited about the opportunity again to make an impact with some people that are really close to home for me. When I first met Dave Keese, he was a tall kid. We related on our personal backgrounds a little bit, single parent household. I remember times that he would ask me, outright, so how do you start this conversation? Or how do you start that conversation? Or what do you do in this scenario? And it was more of me just kind of telling him that first thing you got to do is you got to have the courage to do it. You got to have the courage to be able to step beyond your fear and to get out here and to not care what anybody else is going to think. I had another scholar, Malachi, tall kid. Both my kids somehow are taller than me. We're in high school, and I'm not too short. I'm 6 foot, but these kids were pretty big, And Malachi was an athlete, is an athlete, and he was a bit of a musician on the side. and he liked to sing, is what he liked to do. He wanted to learn how to not necessarily be confident, but to be able to communicate better, maybe with how he was feeling, but just in professional settings. I think he wanted to learn how to communicate who he was and the thoughts he had and visions he had in that type of a setting. I think about this program, and I think about it from a couple angles. It's not a lot of time that you have to invest for a major impact that you can have. And a lot of the response that I get reminds me of the responses that I got when I was a kid. I really ain't got time for that, man. You know, I'm sorry, I got a lot going on. You know, I just can't really dedicate the time. And I'm thinking, one time a month, you can't dedicate 3 or 4 hours out of 31 days, out of 30, you know, whatever. You can't dedicate 3 or 4 hours that it can make a major impact in somebody else's life. I have a wife and 2 kids. We own our house. I have grass to cut. I have birthdays to go to. I have all kinds of things to be at. You know, sometimes I'm pulling 40, 50 or more hours here at Zoeller. And real estate, I do real estate 24/7. I have another side business that I'm helping my brother-in-law with. You know, I'm always working, I'm always going. I don't have time. Heck, I don't have time for myself. But that's not gonna stop me from coming in here to try to dedicate some time to give back, to make an impact in somebody else's life. My life will never be bigger than taking a moment to invest in someone else. It's a pretty impactful thing you can have just by showing up.